Welcome back to the Chattable podcast, where we learn real English in real life in rich vocabulary and feel proud. Today, we are jumping right into how the weather outside your window actually dictates the way you describe, well, your most intense experiences.
Right. And specifically, we are looking at everyday weather words, words like rain and thunder.
Exactly. And we're going to see how they transform into these incredibly powerful, dramatic English metaphors throughout this episode.
Yeah, because the mission for this episode isn't just to read you a vocabulary list. We really want to figure out the why behind these phrases.
Right. The actual history behind them.
Exactly. The fascinating and honestly sometimes wonderfully petty historical origins that make these idioms actually work when you use them.
And to make this really click for you, the listener, we are going to drop these concepts into the highest stakes environment we could think of, which is the Winter Olympics.
Which is perfect, right? Because the Olympics operate entirely on high emotion and, very sudden, dramatic moments.
Yeah, the exact kind of extreme human extremity these weather idioms were invented to capture. So let's start with a phrase that takes a simple weather noun and just totally weaponizes it.
Oh, I like that. Weaponizes it into an action.
Yeah. I'm talking about using the word rain as a verb. Now, on a surface level, saying it's raining praise or raining criticism just means you were getting a lot of it.
Right. In abundance.
But I have to push back on that basic definition. I mean, it's like turning the weather dial up to 11 to describe the physical sensation of being showered with something.
Right.
But it's easy to picture physical objects raining down. How does this work with abstract things? If I am getting a massive amount of compliments, why use a word that implies getting wet, cold, and uncomfortable?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we say we are sunshining in praise?
That is a great question. Well, the psychological mechanism here is really all about a loss of control. I mean, in literature and human history, water almost always represents overwhelming, uncontrollable emotion.
Oh, interesting.
Think about stepping outside into a torrential downpour. You can't catch every drop.
You definitely can't dodge it. You just get totally soaked.
Exactly. You are entirely at the mercy of the elements. So when we use rain as a verb, metaphorically, we are describing an experience that bypasses your logical brain entirely.
It's an avalanche of attention.
Right. An avalanche of feedback that you simply cannot escape, whether you want to or not.
That makes a lot more sense. It's not about the temperature of the rain. It's about the inescapable volume of it.
Think about the physical sensation, right? Snow implies a quiet, slow accumulation. Wind implies a singular pushing force.
But rain is different.
Very different. Rain implies a relentless, countless volume of individual impacts hitting you all at once. It's a complete sensory saturation.
Okay, let's plug this into our Winter Olympics setting to see how it operates in real time. Picture the end of a highly anticipated figure skating routine.
Oh, the tension in the building would be crazy.
Right. Let's say a skater, we'll call her Chloe, has been training her entire life for this 4-minute program. He just landed her final impossible jump flawlessly, the music swells, and the crowd completely loses its mind.
The energy in that arena is totally electric.
Yes. You would describe that scene by saying, as soon as the music stopped, the fans started raining flowers and stuffed animals onto the ice to celebrate her.
And notice how that language instantly shifts your perspective as the listener. You go from just hearing the abstract sound of a cheering crowd to visually experiencing the sheer volume of their appreciation.
You see the physical objects flying through the air.
Exactly. It becomes a physical manifestation of emotion that Chloe literally has to stand in the middle of. The adoration is falling from the sky in such massive quantities that it covers the surface of the ice. She is essentially surrendering to the positive elements.
But wait, it works the exact same way for the negative elements too, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, if a referee makes a terrible call that costs a hockey team the gold medal, the media will rain criticism down on him for weeks. It's that same feeling of being caught in a storm with no umbrella.
And in both scenarios, the person at the center of the storm is powerless to stop it. I mean, the crowd will throw the flowers until they run out, and the media will write the articles until the outrage fades.
You really just have to stand there and take it.
Exactly.
So if raining praise or raining criticism is all about surrendering to the elements because you have zero control, what happens when human beings actively try to fight back against that unpredictability?
Because we don't just accept our fate.
Right. We plan, we hoard, which brings us to the survival instinct of preparing for a rainy day.
Yeah, we move from the overwhelming sensation of the downpour to the deep, lingering anxiety of the storm. The vibe shifts entirely from dramatic abundance to this cautious, hypervigilant preservation.
So the concept here is saving your most valuable resources for a time in the unknown future when you will truly, absolutely need them. I have to challenge the logic of this one for a modern listener, though. I mean, for you and me, a rainy day today usually just means canceling a picnic, getting stuck in traffic, or staying inside to binge watch a show.
It's a mild inconvenience at worst.
Exactly. So why has a rainy day become the universal English metaphor for an absolute crisis or emergency? It feels, frankly, a little melodramatic for a bit of precipitation.
Well, the melodrama is entirely justified when you look at the historical origins.
Yeah.
You have to remember, this idiom didn't originate in modern cities with climate-controlled apartments and grocery delivery.
Right, obviously not.
It is deeply ingrained in early agricultural societies. Back in the 14th century, a literal rainy day wasn't just an inconvenience. It was an existential threat to your livelihood.
Oh, because if it rained for weeks, farmers couldn't tend the fields.
Exactly. Crops rotted. Harvests failed completely.
So a rainy day meant a literal caloric deficit. It basically meant starvation.
It was a matter of life and death. You had to save up a surplus of grain during the sunny, highly productive days just to survive the inevitable periods when the weather turned against you and you couldn't produce anything.
Wow, that reframes it completely. That generational anxiety is baked right into the English language.
It's a primal instinct to protect yourself against a future deficit.
But since most of us aren't 14th century farmers storing wheat in a barn anymore, how does this primal survival tactic translate into modern strategy? Because people talk about putting money away in a rainy day fund.
Right, the classic savings account.
Yeah, but the concept stretches much further than just keeping cash in a bank, right? How does this look in sports?
Well, the resource you're saving doesn't have to be physical money or grain. It can be emotional bandwidth, physical energy, or even a secret weapon in a competitive environment.
Okay, let's go back to the Winter Olympics.
Sure. Let's look at a snowboarder named Liam. He's competing in the halfpipe qualifiers. Liam posts a massive score on his very first run, which mathematically guarantees that he advances to the finals. He is statistically secure.
So the immense life or death pressure is off for his second qualifying run. He doesn't have to fight for survival today.
Right. But Liam's adrenaline is pumping, the cameras are on, and he desperately wants to show off his newest, most dangerous, highly technical trick.
Of course he does.
This is where the discipline of the idiom comes in. His coach pulls him aside at the top of the mountain and says, listen, you don't need to risk doing your most dangerous trick right now. Keep your routine simple today. Save that trick for a rainy day during the gold medal round.
I love that application because the rainy day in this context isn't a disaster at all. It's a moment of highest leverage.
Exactly. It's the moment where Liam will need to pull out all the stops to survive the fierce competition of the finals and actually win gold.
It's the strategic preservation of a critical asset.
Because if Liam uses that trick in the qualifier, he risks crashing and getting injured for absolutely zero strategic gain. He already made the finals.
Right, but if he holds it back for the rainy day, the moment of maximum need, it could be the deciding factor that puts him on top of the podium.
You know, it reminds me of playing a difficult video game. You spend the entire game hoarding your most powerful healing potions and rare items, terrified to use them during normal battle.
Oh, I do that all the time.
Right. You save them specifically for the final boss fight because you know that's the ultimate rainy day where you will need every advantage you can get. The trick really is having the wisdom to know when that rainy day has actually arrived so you don't end the game with a pocket full of unused potions.
That is the perfect analogy. The fear of premature expenditure is universal, whether you are a gamer, an Olympic snowboarder, or an ancient farmer. You are constantly calculating risk versus reward based on an unknown future. Okay, so if saving a trick for a rainy day is all about manufacturing your own perfect high-leverage moment, what happens when someone else actively steps in and sabotages that payoff?
Oh, and now we are getting into the drama.
What happens when you've waited for the perfect moment to reveal your secret and someone deliberately yanks the spotlight away from you?
You are talking about the most dramatic, fiercely protective, and highly theatrical idiom of our entire episode, to steal someone's thunder.
The vibe of this phrase is fascinating to me. It's respectful of someone else's achievements, but it's also highly emotional and defensive. And I'm assuming, based on our previous discussions, that this has absolutely zero to do with actual meteorology or weather patterns.
Nothing to do with actual weather, but everything to do with manufacturing it.
Wait, manufacturing weather?
Yes.
Yes.
To understand why we say this today, we have to travel back to the London theater scene in the early 1700s. There was a playwright named John Dennis who was putting on a brand new production.
Okay, setting the scene.
Dennis was incredibly inventive. He didn't just write the script, he wanted a fully immersive experience for the audience. So he invented a highly mechanical, proprietary stage machine specifically designed to create the realistic, terrifying sound of thunder inside the theater.
Oh, wow. Without electricity or modern speakers, creating a sound that loud and visceral in the 1700s must have been a massive technological leap.
It was groundbreaking.
I imagine rolling heavy lead balls down wooden troughs or violently shaking massive sheets of metal. It would have totally shocked a live audience.
The machine was an absolute marvel of stage production. Unfortunately for John Dennis, his play was a complete and utter disaster.
Oh no, that is brutal.
The plot, the acting, whatever the reason, the audience hated it, the critics ripped it apart, and the show was forced to close almost immediately.
That has to sting.
It does. However, a manager from a rival theater company happened to be in the audience. He saw the play fail, but he heard that incredible thunder machine.
I think I see where this is going.
He recognized the genius of the acoustic effect, and he quietly copied John Dennis's mechanical method for his own theater's massive, highly successful production of Macbeth across town.
You are kidding. The absolute audacity to sit in the audience of a failing show and just rip off the best part of it?
When John Dennis attended this rival play and heard his own proprietary invention rumbling through the theater, echoing over a successful script that wasn't his, he was absolutely furious.
I would be too.
He stood up right in the middle of the audience and angrily shouted that these rivals had literally stole my thunder.
The irony of that moment is staggering. John Dennis's actual play was a total failure. I mean, nobody today remembers a single line of dialogue from his script.
Not a single word.
Yet his angry, bitter complaint from the audience about a stolen sound effect has survived for over 300 years as the ultimate English metaphor for stolen attention. Why does thunder specifically equate to attention in our minds today?
Because of acoustic dominance. You cannot ignore thunder. It physically shakes your chest. It demands that you stop what you are doing and pay attention to the sky.
That makes total sense.
In the theater, the thunder was the dramatic climax. By stealing the thunder, the rival theater stole the undeniable presence of Dennis's achievement. Today, at its core, the phrase means taking attention away from someone else's big moment.
You use it when someone is about to celebrate a victory or announce big news, and you want to ensure they get the absolute, undiluted spotlight they rightfully earned.
Exactly.
Let's bring this back to our Winter Olympics locker room to see how we use this etiquette today. Imagine we have a speed skater. We'll call him Matteo.
Okay, picture Matteo.
Matteo has just skated the absolute fastest race of his entire life, breaking a world record and securing the gold medal for his country. It is his ultimate defining moment after a lifetime of grueling early morning training.
He has manufactured his own thunder.
Exactly. So in the locker room right after the race, the team captain might turn to the rest of the squad and say, "Listen up, Matteo just had the ultimate race out there. Let him have this moment with the global media. Do not steal his thunder by announcing our controversial team roster changes today."
Right. The captain is actively acting as a boundary to protect Matteo's emotional peak. Those roster changes might be incredibly important, breaking news for the sport. But releasing that news right now, on this specific day, would totally dilute Matteo's achievement.
The press would swarm the team asking questions about the controversial roster drama instead of asking Matteo about his gold medal.
It's the ultimate party foul. Releasing that news would be exactly like the rival theater firing off the thunder machine. It forcibly shifts the audience's attention away from the person who put in the work.
It's all about having the emotional intelligence and the basic respect to hold your own news back. You save it for a different day so that the person who earned the spotlight gets to stand in it alone without sharing the headline.
It really highlights how we use language to enforce social boundaries. We've taken a 300-year-old petty theater dispute and turned it into a modern code of conduct for respecting other people's success.
Looking at the entire journey we've taken in this episode, it's really remarkable how dynamic and deeply human these phrases are.
They really are.
We started by looking at the overwhelming, inescapable sensory overload of raining objects or praise down on someone, turning a simple weather event into an action of massive, uncontrollable volume.
A total loss of control.
Then we examined the primal, cautious survival strategy of preparing for a rainy day, where we hold back our best resources and tricks for the exact moment of highest leverage. And finally, we explored the dramatic, highly theatrical protection of someone's spotlight by making sure nobody deliberately sabotages their moment and steals their thunder.
The biggest takeaway for you listening right now is that understanding these phrases does much more than just help you sound natural in an English conversation. It gives you a direct, unfiltered window into human history.
That is so true.
Language is not a sterile set of grammar rules. It is a living fossil record of human anxiety, innovation, and emotion. We have literally traced the life or death fears of ancient farmers terrified of starvation all the way to the ego-driven, highly relatable theater drama of the 1700s.
The weather hasn't changed, but how we use it to explain our internal lives is just brilliant. Every time we speak, we are carrying these little ghosts of farmers and playwrights with us in our sentences.
We really are.
And since these dramatic weather metaphors evolved from literal physical survival tactics in agriculture or from mechanical theater inventions from centuries ago, it really makes you wonder about the future of our language.
How do you mean?
Well, think about the everyday tools, the specific software, or the digital actions that you and I use right now today. The mundane things we take for granted is just part of our literal modern reality.
Right. Our phones, the internet.
What part of our digital lives is going to become the abstract, dramatic English idiom of the future? Are people in 300 years going to be talking about buffering their emotions when they are mentally overwhelmed?
Oh, wow.
Or telling someone they swiped left on a bad business deal to describe rejecting a contract?
That is a phenomenal question. The literal physical tools of today are almost certainly the abstract emotional metaphors of tomorrow. Just as a wooden thunder machine became a symbol for stolen glory, our current technology is absolutely planting the seeds for the idioms of the 24th century.
It makes you look at your smartphone screen a little differently, knowing it might be the weather metaphor of the future. Well, thank you so much for joining our conversation today and for taking this journey through the mechanics of the English language with us. Keep your thunder safe, prepare for those high-leverage rainy days, and we'll catch you on the next episode.